Hi, Stingy here, and today we're going to learn about how to select units on the screen RTS style by either clicking on them individually or dragging and selecting multiple at a time. I'm going to try to make this quick by just describing how it's done without going through the code line by line. Check the link in the description for the full code. Okay, first thing we need to set up is what we want to happen when one of our units gets selected. I like using an interface for this, but you can use whatever you like. The important part is that we have a function that fires when our unit is selected and deselected. I'm using a canvas attached to my unit game object with the render mode set to world space. I've then attached a UI image of a little green rectangle to this canvas. Because the panel render mode is set to world space, the UI will move and rotate with the unit. Now the selection rectangle will follow the unit around where it goes, and all we have to do is enable or disable the image to hide or show the rectangle when appropriate. Here's what that looks like. This script gets attached to my unit game object. The next thing we need is to create a script that lets us click on the screen and either drag our mouse or select a unit individually. We start by thinking about all the things the script will need to keep track of. We will need the script to know what are the currently selected units, what are all the possible selectable units in the scene, are we in the middle of clicking or dragging the mouse, if we're dragging the mouse, what is the start position of the drag, the current position of the drag, and the end position of the drag. In our awake, we can use find object by type to get all of the selectable and game objects on the screen. Over here at the top of our update, we can keep track of the mouse drag state. If the user is not currently dragging the mouse and they left click, we put the mouse into the dragging state and we set the start position of the drag. If the user is in the midst of dragging the mouse, then we continuously update the current position with the current mouse position. If the user lifts the mouse button up, then we know the drag is complete and we evaluate the conclusion of that mouse drag. Let's break that evaluation down into two main pieces: drawing the selection rectangle and determining which game objects were selected. Let's start with the drawing portion. The Unity MonoBehavior class has a private function onGUI that you can utilize to draw GUI elements on the screen programmatically. First, we check if the mouse is currently in the dragging state. If it is, then we want to draw a selection rectangle. Unity Screen Space UI is based on the top left corner of the screen being pixel coordinates 0, 0. So to draw a rectangle, we first need to find the top left corner of our mouse drag positions, and then find the width and height of our rectangle. Find the leftmost X value of our mouse drag is pretty straightforward, in that we look for the smaller X coordinate value of our starting mouse position and our current mouse position. Finding the topmost point is a little trickier in that we need to find the smaller Y coordinate between our starting mouse position and our current mouse position, and then subtract that from our screen height, which you can see here. Finding the width is just finding the difference between our starting mouse position and our current mouse position. Now we can create a rect object and call the GUI.box function, giving it the rect object we just made. I do a check to see if the width of the rectangle is larger than 1 before drawing it, because if we are just clicking on the screen and not intending to drag, we don't want a rectangle selection box to show up. Finally, how do we evaluate which game objects have fallen inside of our cool GUI rectangle selection? Well, when the user lets up on the mouse button indicating either the end of a mouse drag or a single mouse click, we first want to deselect any units that may have already been selected by the user. Next, we create a rect object in pretty much exactly the same way we did with the GUI. This time, if the width of the rectangle is 0, we treat it as a single click by the user, and we do a ray cast out from our camera towards where our mouse position is. If we intersect a selectable game object, we call our select function in that game object and add this game object to our list of currently selected units. If the width of the rectangle is not 0, we loop through all of our selectable units in the scene. find the screen space coordinates of each of these game objects and then call the rect.contains function, passing in those screen coordinates. This will tell us if that game object is contained within our selection rectangle. If it is, we call the game object select function and we add it to our current selectables list. And that's it. We now have some basic RTS unit selection controls in our game. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that was helpful. If you did find it helpful, please like and subscribe for more tutorials coming up. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to address them. And also if you have any other things you'd like to see a tutorial on. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.